Luis Corrales. How's it going today?
Hey, Shawn. How are you, my man? Yeah, good to see you, man. Happy Thursday.
Oh, same to you. Fantastic. Fantastic. So yeah, it's been a good day. Thank you for joining us today, Lending with Purpose. And Luis, this is where we have conversations with clients, friends, introductions to various forms of information, professionals, and resources that we use, like yourself, that we look for that never knew existed, a topic that we're probably going to be talking about today, and things that we wanted to learn more about. And so that's the reason why we're here. So thanks for joining us today.
Cool. Thanks, Shawn. Appreciate it, man. Look forward to it.
Yeah. So as we get started and wait for the millions of people to flock into our live stream, Luis, I'll get started with a quick story. So so today I was thinking about you and how accurate and how reliable you are, Luis. So when before we started the live stream, we were talking about golf a little bit, right?
Sure.
And
yeah, of course. Yep.
And do you remember when we played my club the first time? And do you remember the green box?
That's right, man. What's that? What hole is that? What's that? Par 3?
Number 12.
Number 12. That's right. It's like what, a buck 50 or something, 160, or maybe less than that. I forget.
It was playing about that day. It was probably playing about 150.
150. Sure.
Yeah. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Luis Corrales here he's a really good golfer. He's an awesome financial advisor and an even better friend. But he's accurate and he's reliable. And the reason that I definitely know that, again, not just because he's a great golfer, but we're playing and we're on the tee box and I hit my ball, and so Luis is asking, like, what's the green doing? And I'm like, you know what, Luis, you see that green box straight ahead? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, and I probably didn't do a great job. I know I didn't communicating to you what happens when the ball hits the green, because I'm trying to draw a line, and that line from the tee box to this green box, there's a slope, like there's a hill, there's a crest. And it starts to go on the left-hand side of that line, that imaginary line that you draw. It all feeds down to where this hole is. And everything else is it's a top of a hill. And so I know I didn't do a good job of explaining that. So Luis, he gets up to his ball, he gets his routine going, he hits it, and I'm pretty sure the ball hit the green box.
That's right.
And
I don't think it was by design though, but it did hit the green box. Or close to it, yeah.
Close to it. And he looks at me and he kind of like, what's up? And I was like, I told you to aim towards the green box. He's like, no, you told me to hit the green box.
That's right.
And I'm like,
little did I know that the green box is 20 yards over, and now I'm scrambling for par now.
Yeah, you got to scramble for par. So that's how accurate this guy is basically he followed the instructions. He did exactly what I told him to do to hit that green box. And that's the day that I'll never forget. And so, like I said, Luis, today, when I was thinking about the story that I was going to tell, I was thinking about, like, how accurate you are and how reliable you've been, like, in my life, like from the time that I've met you, just to kind of change our mindset, myself and my family and just all the friends around us, and even with business, on how we think about wealth management and finances and such. And so I'm grateful for you, for that. And so
Thank you, Shawn. Appreciate it. I'll definitely always remember that story. Yeah, thanks for connecting the dots there.
Yeah. So as we get started, Luis, why don't you go ahead and tell us, because you're going to do a much better job at it, telling us who you are.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm stepping out for a second here. I just realized there's some construction going on in the background, so I just went to shut the window down.
Oh, the window? Oh, no.
Yeah, man. So you're in DC. They're always. Yeah, I'm in DC. I live in DC. Here with my wife, our son, who's one, just a little bit over one. Oliver is his name, so that's a blessing. Cool. And then, man, it's a great neighborhood. They're always building around here, though. So, but I guess that helps, and helps real estate prices. So,
no question.
Yeah.
So Luis, go ahead and introduce yourself. You're going to do a better job.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Shawn. Thanks for inviting me. A really pleasure, and definitely have kept up with a lot of the show and all the folks you've had. So glad that I could be on today. So we own my partner and I own a firm, a wealth management and business exit planning firm called Cope Corrales. We really focus it on three things. Number one is we have a kind of unique, we call it Core and Four private wealth management platform of helping our clients invest the way that really wealthy folks have invested for generations. So being able to bring access to those types of investments and really thinking about a kind of multi-generational wealth approach, right? So that's kind of our Core and Four philosophy. We've got a family office experience that we provide our clients. It's simply just a fancy way of saying that, we want to, a lot of times we have found that there's a lack of coordination in finances and in planning. You have an accountant, you have an attorney, an insurance person, an investment person, and a famous brother or sister-in-law, and none of these people ever talk to one another. And so as a result of that, folks end up making decisions in a piecemeal approach, right? So we've created a family office experience to bring about all these skill sets and really kind of further our clients' financial interests and business interests. And then the last service we provide is around business exit planning, succession and transition planning, right? Most of our clients over the years have become entrepreneurs. They have owned and own successful companies, and their companies have become a large part of their net worth, right? And they are relying on a liquidity event for their financial plan to work, right? And so what we have found is we've kind of developed some unique skill sets to be able to kind of maximize that enterprise value, maximize what that sale price is, number one. Number two is to help clients keep more of what they net. It's not so much about the top line number, it's more about the bottom line number. And so really working on some very diligent tax planning to reduce any sort of capital gains exposure for our clients. And then to think about what life after the sale looks like, right? If you could answer the famous question, if money weren't an issue, what else would you be doing? That's a lot of times what that kind of life after transition question looks like for our clients, right? So that's the sort of stuff we do. We're in DC. We've got a great team. We just won Best Places to Work in DC, which we're pretty excited about. We weren't expecting it. It just kind of happened.
Congrats.
So that was a really kind of huge recognition for our company and for our team, more importantly. That's it. And I'm from Peru. I was born there, moved here when I was 10. Married a very white Irish Catholic lady, met in college. Her name is Mary. She's super successful. She's way smarter than me. She owns a real estate development and contracting business. We have a son. I play golf. I don't know. I invest in real estate. So that's a little bit about me.
Nice. So you'd be hitting green boxes if money wasn't an issue. You didn't have to work, right? You'd be on the golf course, right?
I'll probably be in the golf course more often. Yes. Yeah. No, I don't know if I'll do that Monday through Monday, but I would be there at least, a few times a week. Yeah.
I hear you. So tell us about this. I was, in some business owners, that are listening to this and entrepreneurs, as you mentioned, this topic that we're going to be talking about today, how to retain and incentivize key employees. Like we all want to make sure, because, as you know, it's the people that are in their businesses that, when you align, it helps to offer like an amazing customer experience and, helps your companies grow. And so, like, in what ways, Luis, are you thinking, like, what does that mean? Like, in your world,
sure.
When you're educating your clients, the business owners to retain and incentivize key employees, like, what does that mean?
Yes, that's pretty simple. Any sort of transaction that we've been involved in where our company has sold, generally speaking, the buyer wants to make sure that the company can continue to run without the selling party, right? Without the owner or whoever the management team is. And so because of that, you can't, as companies grow, you can't do everything yourself. and you then end up hiring people. You go from a 1-person company to a 2-person company, and then 4, and then 8, and then 16, and so forth, right? Yep. Depending on the complexity of the business. And it's really capable and talented individuals that ultimately provide that sort of exponential growth to a business, right? The challenge is that anyone that's really, really talented, especially after about a 5 to 7 year period of time of being loyal to a business, they'll start to wonder and they'll start to get a little itchy about thinking about what's next and what their kind of future career plans and growth within the company might look like, right?
Right.
That's one scenario. A second scenario is sometimes businesses reach a point where they've outgrown their current team and they need to go outside and find a talented individual, like some sort of C-suite individual. It could be a president/CEO to be more involved in day-to-day. It could be a COO. Could be a director of sales, right? Whatever the needs of the company are then that maybe can't be filled by the existing team, right? That's there now. And so you got to go out and recruit people. Finding really talented people usually requires, I mean, not that money is everything, but it requires a really strong financial offer that aligns that person with the success and the future growth of the business, right?
Right.
And that also creates kind of a little bit of a golden handcuffs, right? Where they left, they're living behind a significant pot, right, on the table. And so that's really what we have found to work well. And that's been an area that we've advised a lot of our successful business owner clients, particularly a lot of those that are in like the GovCon space, where you win a government contract and all of a sudden it's a $10 million contract and you got to staff up and bring on 20 or 30 new employees all at once just to fulfill on that project. And you got to go out and hire people. And sometimes you have to hire some C-level people to organize the team, right? So what we've done is we don't want our clients to be caught by surprise and to be asked like the equity question if they haven't really thought about it, right? And if you haven't thought about it, you're going to be surprised and then you're going to get upset because you're going to wonder, it's like, oh, why am I giving you equity when you haven't even started yet? Right? Like prove yourself first, and then we'll see if you can become a partner, right? That's really what most people don't want to hear, right? They want to make sure you have a thoughtful approach to how that new hire or the existing hire that's been loyal with you can partner with you in the growth of the firm. So those are the sort of plans that we design. One of them is called a deferred compensation plan. It's like a midterm bonus plan. And another one is called like equity, not real equity. It's called phantom equity, or we call it like equity appreciation rights. It sounds really fancy, but at the end of the day, it's pretty straightforward once we get to know where a company is and how we need to structure.
Got it.
Yeah.
So look, let's touch on those two things then. So deferred compensation. Can you give us a high level overview of what that is?
And all it means compensate. Yep. Yeah. Deferred just means you're not paying it now, you're paying it later, right? And then compensation is self-explanatory, right? So what the flavor that it usually takes is you enter into an agreement with an employee or a group of employees where you're very clear with the goals or the milestones that employee has to hit. It could be that they have to hit, the company has to hit some sort of revenue target. $10 million or whatever, 15 million or $50 million. And then another target could be that employee has to be, grow their team division by a certain percentage, right? I'm just making up some examples. Yeah. And if they hit whatever their targets are, then they're eligible for this deferred compensation incentive, right? And usually it will be some sort of percentage on their salary or some sort of percentage of their current compensation, right? Somewhere in like the 10 to even as high as like 50% at times we've seen, right? But the reason it's deferred is that it's not paid all at once, right? So we set up some sort of waiting period. It might be a 3-year waiting period, a 5-year waiting period. It's also known as like a vesting schedule. So that if, let's say, $100,000 per year has been put into this account for this employee, and it's a 3-year waiting period, right? and so now it's year one, right? And there's $100,000 in this thing. They needed to wait 3 years, and they left after the first year. That $100,000 is gone. They lose it, right?
Right.
Or it could be like a 3-year waiting period, but it's like a third, and a third. So if that $100,000 that went in, if they left after 1 year, they just keep $33,000, right? And the other $67,000 is gone, right? So it's designed to incentivize an employee to stay with the firm. Therefore, it's like a retention bonus, right? The really important thing is that you have to be clear with like what you want to make sure this employee hits, right? And the easier the easier it is for the employee to understand that target, the more likely that this incentive is actually going to work.
Right.
The more complicated you make it, then it's like they don't know how to calculate it themselves, and it's like, oh, they get up in the morning and they're like, all right, whatever, I don't really know what this means.
Right, and it's easier to walk away at that point because it's just like, I don't even know how I hit the number anyway and how it's going to work out.
Exactly. So it's very clear. It has to be an objective measure around like why somebody hit the number or didn't hit the number. And there can be maybe more of a subjective element for a portion of it. Yes. That can be more around intangible things, like maybe do they have leadership skills? Have they been able to train and mentor other employees, right? If that's what the company's looking for, right? But you want to try to keep it as objective as possible so that somebody really is very clear. If I do these 5 things every single day, it's going to lead ultimately to this output, right?
Got it. And so on this platform with a bunch of leaders and entrepreneurs and business owners, like at what point should some company or start looking into something like a deferred comp plan?
Anytime
that's fit.
Yeah, good fit for that. I mean, so we've done a lot of GovCon, a lot of government contracting work. And that just happens to be a very common industry in the Washington, D.C. metro area. And so for a government contractor, anytime they've reached, more than $7 or $10 million of revenue, it usually means they have at least 40 to 50 employees, right? And it usually then also means that of those 40 to 50, there's got to be maybe 2 or 3 that are really key to the business, where if we asked that business owner, they would say, man, it would really suck if I lost that person. It would really suck if I had to go start over again and find somebody new. Not that they couldn't do it, but it just would set the business back, right?
Right.
So as a reflection point, it's usually when you get to a point where a business gets to a point where they have some really key people and that you don't want to lose. And this can be an attractive way to put a little carrot out there and incentivize them, right? So that's what we have found. That tends to be a lot of the work we've done has been for kind of that industry.
Got it. And then so last question around the deferred comp, like how I don't know if the word complicated is the right choice of words or the right word to use, but setting it up, what goes?
It's pretty straightforward. I mean, usually we can set one of these up in about 2 months.
Okay.
Between the financial arrangement of what are those benchmarks that we want to make sure that are part of the plan, right? Is it 50% based on company goals and the other 50% is based on individual goals? And what are those goals exactly? Between coming up with the right vesting schedule, like the waiting period, right? Coming up with the right provisions of like if they leave, what are they call it, forfeiture provisions, which is like if somebody leaves, like they forfeit the money. But what are those, like what do we want to track, right? Yeah. Is it just time based? What else is involved? And then ultimately documenting it, like actually having a contract in place, which requires a legal agreement, which, we're not attorneys, but we work with so many of them that can do these at very reasonable fees. Yeah. So in 2 months, we can get it all done for most clients.
No, that sounds really good. All right. So phantom equity, what is that?
That's also pretty straightforward. If you have a company also, let's say it's a GovCon and it's grown and now you've got some key people, maybe they're like a C-suite level people, or maybe they're like project critical people or client facing people that you also don't want to lose. Or if you're trying to hire, right, a CFO, CEO, whatever the need is, and you are not ready to actually give somebody true ownership in your business or don't want to sell true ownership, right? Because you don't want to really have a true partner in a business, and everybody has their own reasons why that may or may not be. you can structure a plan, a comp plan, where a employee can participate in the growth of the business and then be paid out for that growth when a company sells, right? So we were working with the GovCon. It was about a $30 million business. And we designed a plan where 9 employees were part of it. It was a 115-person employee company. So 9 of the 115 participated in it. And the way the plan worked is that if the company grew from 30 million to 40 million, these 9 people got to participate in 20% of that growth, right? Wow. So that's $10 million of growth. 20% of that is $2 million. And so each employee essentially, gets about 200 grand, a little bit over 200 grand upon a liquidity event, right?
Right.
And with this company in particular, they're planning about a 3 to 5 year kind of roadmap is what that's kind of their timeline, right? And they were really excited by this because they couldn't really figure out a different way to set it up. And it's like 2 owners at this time, 50-50, and they didn't really want to take on other partners. But they really want to kind of reward some of these folks that are loyal to the firm. Right. And that's the way we designed it. I just saw Desiree in there. So thanks, Desiree. It's great to see you. Thanks for the shout out.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, she's what did she say? Luis? Luis and the team are awesome.
That's funny. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so I actually so the phantom equity thing, I could see in this particular case with the government contractor that you're speaking about. There are those 9 key employees, they're running through walls, man. I'm sure they're really excited about, getting from that $30 million revenue to 40 million, because that's a tremendous financial upside for them, and it creates like some wealth for their legacy too as well. And so I could just see where it's beneficial for everyone involved.
Exactly. Yeah. And in this case, it wasn't revenue, it was actually valuation. We did a value of the company.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's how we so it was a $30 million value of the company. And it was once we hit 40 million, but it was very clear that the formula that I was using, it wasn't confusing at all.
Right.
It was basically a multiple off of the profits, right?
And how much of a stretch is something like that, right? So because sometimes you'll set these goals and they might not be attainable, right? Or maybe they're too easy, the target's too easy to hit. How do you whose decision is it to measure that? How do you measure that? Number one, to get to that number.
Yeah, look, goals are, you make projections and you just, make them based on the information that you have. And sometimes you create forecasts that are, like you said, too hard to hit or they're too easy, right? So definitely at least once a year. I mean, most business owners should revisit their numbers, and at least twice a year, if not quarterly, you should know where you're tracking with your targets, and make adjustments if they're needed, right? Look, I mean, 2020 happened, March 2020 happened, which was COVID. No one was expecting that at all. And as it was happening, most companies were scared, right? And inevitably you have to make some changes, right? So you want to build these plans to be flexible enough and to be able to adapt, but you also want to be able to be very clear in how you communicate these to the participants, because you don't want them to feel like you're constantly changing the rules on them. That doesn't create a lot of trust and a lot of confidence, right?
That's right. And how does your team specifically walk us through what that looks like and your participation in this? How do you help?
Yeah, we're the kind of the business advising team. So we help structure these plans from a financial standpoint, from understanding what are the goals and targets that that should be set right within the plan. Again, what vesting schedule we want to use? What the incentive should really be? Should it be 20% of growth? Should it be 30% of growth? It just depends on each company, right? And what's going to incentivize each group of employees. And so we basically roll up our sleeves and design the plan for them. And then we also coordinate all the legal parts of it with our legal counsel, with our corporate attorney, that's essentially in charge of drafting the agreements themselves. So we don't make it a legal exercise. We make it a financial exercise.
Yes.
Which is really what our clients want. And then the legal exercise is just drafting the document and making sure it's ironclad. And then ultimately we got to roll it out. So we have to come up with the talking points of the presentation so that our clients can share it with their team, right? With the participants. So we kind of do all that. And by the way, we do all of this so that we can help this company be able to sell for top value. It's inevitable. You can't sell a business and you can't do it with really quality people, right? So we're not doing this and we're not having our clients do this just because they want to be nice and give out a gift or a handout. This is really to incentivize them to grow the business and to participate in a percentage of that growth, right?
Right.
And they'll do it. I mean, we've seen some great success with this company, and all these 9 employees are pumped about rolling up their sleeves, man, and get to work and winning more contracts and delivering on contracts and being innovative and mentoring and teaching others, because they know if they do so, there's a nice pot of gold on the other side of the road.
Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, that's a huge number, like a big difference to share in. So last thing around this, and then I'll let you go because I know you're busy. But tax incentives, right, and advantages, and you mentioned that's one of the things in regards to tax planning. That's obviously important to business owners. As it relates to this, how does that work? Like,
tax is really important, right? Because it's less about what the top line number is. Like, are you getting a $20 million check, $30 million, $50 million check? And it's more about what you keep, right? And with most businesses, especially with most like first generation founders, they started their business with nothing. They invested like a penny and a bunch of grit and execution, and they rolled up their sleeves and just got work done. That means that their cost basis, like how much the value of the initial investment in the company was, is probably zero. So if you wind up with a $20 or $30 million check, all of that check is basically subject to capital gains if you don't structure your company properly, right? And that's a lot of the work that we do, right? And that work, you need some time to be able to actually restructure your company for the most tax advantages possible upon a liquidity event, which is a whole completely different makeup when you're just working in the business and drawing an income from it, than how a company gets taxed when it's like sold, right? So we just got introduced to another GovCon down in Alabama, in Birmingham, and they're about to sell their business for $80 million. Very successful company. And through some more advanced planning that we've done and restructuring where the company's domiciled, we're actually moving them from Alabama. We're moving them to Nevada, because Nevada, like Florida and like Delaware and Wyoming and South Dakota, they've got zero state income tax and zero capital gains tax. So the result of that is we're about to save this company, that's about 3 to 4 weeks from getting a letter of intent. We're about to save this company $2.8 million of capital gains tax. That's through some better planning, right? And they've got a great accountant that has been with them for a decade, but they just outgrew their accountant, is really what happened, right? It's a local guy, great guy, we've met him, but he just didn't have the knowledge and the skill sets. And so that's like really, that's huge, man. And so this couple is really pleased.
That's awesome. It's funny you say that about Wyoming, because I've been talking to a lot of real estate investors lately.
Yeah.
And they have some, cash, and they're looking to put these properties in their LLCs. Sure. And there's a guy last week, he specifically said Wyoming. And
100%, man.
Like, dude, what Wyoming?
What's going on in Wyoming?
Wyoming, right?
It's like the Delaware. It's like the Delaware.
Like Delaware. And he's like, I'm like, why do you want to have your company based in Wyoming? Because he's telling me all the strategy and the structure and everything. And I just learned this last week was that Wyoming was one of those states that was friendly in that way, like in regards to capital gains, because he mentioned that
very, very friendly. Yeah. Nevada's even friendlier from cap gains, but they're also friendly from a multi-generational wealth planning. Like this couple is about to come into all this wealth, and they're definitely not going to spend they're very frugal folks, actually. So they're not going to spend all this money during their lifetime. So now they're thinking about their kids and grandchildren and all that. So Nevada is a really good place for trusts. That's like the other key. That's why we're actually re-domiciling their company in Nevada. To save them cap gains, $2.8 million, and then create what's called a dynasty trust.
for
which
their
is basically for their family. Yeah, children. I mean, you can go down it's 365 years as you can go in Nevada, passing on wealth for 360. I mean, imagine that, man. I don't even know what the Corrales family was 365 years ago, but it'd be cool if I can build something for Oliver and maybe grandchildren down the road.
Oh yeah. I think that's what many of us are looking for right now. That legacy.
That's right.
Yeah, that's cool. It's not about us anymore. I've definitely learned that.
That's right.
No, this is amazing. So I'm hoping everybody is I know they are getting some great information out of this. I know in my network, Luis, as you know, we have a tremendous amount of friends that are in this GovCon space, but this could work for pretty much anyone.
No, anybody that's got a successful company, man. These are all these strategies that I talked about applied. The deferred comp strategy, the phantom equity strategy, and the redomiciling your company strategy as well for cap gain purposes.
Got it. So how do we connect with Cope Corrales?
It's easy. I mean, we've got our website, CopeCorrales.com. There's a contact us page there. I'll definitely send you, Shawn, all my email and cell phone number and everything else. We've got a great team as well. But yeah, CopeCorrales.com is.
So you're going to send me your email and your cell phone number and everything like I don't already have it?
Well, I mean, you've got my social, my date of birth. You've got everything. You've done all the loans that I have in the last 7 years, man, since we met. So,
yeah, we're gonna put it in the chat. Actually, not your social security number though. I promise you won't put that in there.
That's right. I know.
But yeah, CopeCorrales.com. We'll be sure that gets in the thread. And so anybody that's watching the replay or want to pass the information along, as I mentioned earlier, I started off with a funny story about Luis hitting that green box, but it was all about seriously about him being super reliable and accurate. And so I pretty much anything Luis talks about tells me I take it to the bank because I know he's put a lot of thought into it. And it's going to be practical, and the way that they explain things makes a lot of sense. It's easy to understand and apply. So Luis, I appreciate that. And I applaud you too as well. And I go on record to say I'm proud of you and congratulations to you and your company. You guys are doing an amazing job. I'm seeing you step up your video game, and that's looking good on YouTube.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, you guys go find Cope Corrales on YouTube as well. Just go to YouTube and type in Cope Corrales. There's some really good information and content that they're putting out there. That's like I said, very thoughtful and practical for us to use. So yeah, it's there. So Luis, before we finish, got one last question for you. Typically, I said, be an icebreaker, but we're gonna close with it. And so you get one person, dead or alive, one question. Who would it be? What would you ask?
Yeah, good question. You did kind of hint me into this thing. I guess it's less of a surprise, but I still haven't thought about it too much. I actually would say I never got a chance to meet either of my grandparents on my mom or dad's side.
Oh, wow.
So actually, I wish I'd met my dad's father. His name was Felipe Corrales. And I don't know what I would ask him other than simply saying, hey, what would you hope to have created as a legacy? Right. So Felipe, which I don't know. I've been curious about it since I never got to meet him. He actually died when my dad was young. And as I've become a dad now, that's something I've been thinking about, right? How can I provide for my son? And then kind of even moving on to kind of the next generation, right? Which can be crazy to even think about, but it'd be cool, man, if I had that shot. So I'm sure I will down the road in the next life. Oh,
next lifetime, definitely. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great question to ask too as well, because you go back. That's that's 2 generations, right?
2 generations, man.
2 generations back, and so who knows what he would have been thinking? If he knew his grandson would be, crushing it in the United States and having a successful wealth management company, and his son having grandkids, because you have nieces and nephews as well.
That's right.
So no, that'd be a pretty cool question to ask and get answered.
Pretty cool, man. I know. Yeah, I hope I can live that long enough to meet my grandchildren, because I would have liked to meet him. I would have liked to meet my grandpa, and I did. I heard he was a cool dude. So yeah, you're have that chance.
Luis, you're so humble though, man. You're definitely a cool guy too as well, and I wish you all the best and success in life, because I know you've been a game changer for me.
Thanks, Shawn.
My family.
This is awesome, dude. No, dude, I definitely really appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity. I like the setup, and I'm glad I got a chance to be a part of it, man. So,
no question. So
thanks for your friendship. Thanks for your friendship, and you also keep crushing it. We're just trying to keep up with all the social media. You know, you guys are dialed in for sure. So,
we'll see. We're trying to get better at it. But everybody that's listening, see, this has been amazing. I hope you gained something from it. I would ask all the entrepreneurs and business owners seriously, like, reach out to Luis and his team. And if there's anything that anybody in our networking, needs from us that we can do to help you, don't hesitate to reach out. As I always say, it would be such a shame for us to have all these connections and, be networked in a certain way and we not be able to, to help each other. And so if there's anything that we can do to help you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Continue to stay safe and healthy. We're still in the pandemic. Just do your very best to stay as safe and healthy as possible. Things will get back to normal, and we'll see you next Thursday. So, Luis, I'll ask you to just hang on for a quick second. I'll close it out, and I'll see everybody next week. Take care.
Cool. Thanks, Shawn.